metaphysician or a truth student. Because the high calling is to become the guardian at the gate of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. You're asked to take really good care of your thinking, metaphysician or a because you know that your thinking is creating your life, the guardian your life experience of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. You're asked to take really good care of your thinking, metaphysician or because you know that your thinking is creating your life, the guardian your life experience of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. You're asked to take really good care of your thinking, metaphysician or because you know that your thinking is creating your life, the guardian your life experience of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. You're asked to take really good care of your thinking, metaphysician or because you know that your thinking is creating your life, the guardian your life experience of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. You're asked to take really good care of your thinking, metaphysician or because you know that your thinking is creating your life, the guardian your life experience of your own consciousness. You're asked to do a lot. Good morning, everybody. Welcome again to First Center for Spiritual Living in New York City. We're broadcasting today on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, YouTube, and we have our live audience with some of our favorite people with us today. So if you're in New York, come join us. We have room for you. It's time to connect and come back. Wear your mask, be vaccinated, do whatever you have to do to make yourself feel safe, but do join us. However you found us today, it's a wonderful, first of all, welcome to our virtual community. And if you want to be involved with Zoom, that's really important. Send Jimmy or one of our technicians a message, send us an email, and we can give you the invitation to be on Zoom. Zoom is probably a better way to watch us because after our lesson, we have time where our members interact. Afterwards, we have a members sharing. So it's a nice and warm exchange. So send us a message. Also, if you'd like to become a member of our community, send us a message. We'll send you a form. We're looking for having a strong membership in our virtual as well as our physical community. After all, we're all one. And we're building an important religious science work here, and everybody's invited from everywhere. Today's talk is a talk, I think, initially that was done by Stuart Grayson, Dr. Stuart, who was our second pastor. And I've given it a new name because it's been revitalized a bit. It's called Seeing in the Dark. And that's kind of a good title, and it's chosen because many of us look at life through dark or cloudy or distorted lenses. So our view is distorted, it's a bit warped. And you might say, not me, and I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but I'm talking about people in general. They don't see life through a spiritual lens oftentimes. There's a lot of action and reaction, and it's just a whole bunch of people reacting to a whole bunch of things that are going on. And it doesn't have to be that way, but that's the way it is for the vast majority of people. How we get through a week is somewhat of a miracle each and every day. We have a lot of what we call pre-programming, and now the new word that everyone's talking about is we have a lot of biases, unconscious biases perhaps, of everything on earth. And sometimes all these things seem too much for many of us. If you're listening, you're watching this particular message today, that's absolutely wonderful. It would suggest that your consciousness in somehow, some way is ready to hear some of this information and to consider it. So there are no accidents that you're here. What matters right now is that you are here listening to a message that will let you know or remind you that you are on a spiritual pathway. It's a spiritual pathway that will empower you in consciousness to accomplish great things in your lives. That is, if you will listen to that voice within you. So you might first congratulate yourself for all being here, our audience. Congratulate yourself for being here. And those of you too on the Zoom call and Facebook and all, congratulate yourself for being here. And while you're at it, congratulate yourself that you've actually overcome and let go. And you've let go of so much so you can even be open to the message here and be reminded of the truth that we teach. Many years ago, I've had a few great teachers, but go back far enough, there's a great teacher who told me that we're all students and teachers to one another. And that's very true. We are all students, and we always will be students because there will always be more and more for us to learn. And that's a great thing. When you're awake and you're alive with spirit, everything is animated, and you have a consciousness, and there's an aliveness within you, and you sense this aliveness in everyone. That's a good word maybe to describe it. You hear people talk about the love and the energy, but there's an aliveness in everything you can look at. All the universe is alive with this energy, with this spirit. You might take a moment to take that in. All the universe is alive with this spirit. There's nothing you can think of, nothing you can look at that's not alive with spirit. Let that thought sink in a little bit. All the universe is alive with spirit. I remember doing some work helping an AIDS organization in the late 1980s. And there was a file clerk there, probably in his later 60s, and I think he was dealing with the virus, and he was kind of a quiet guy, and I got to know him a little bit. And one day I dropped a pencil that rolled down behind the desk, and I just kind of said, forget about it. And he looked at me, and again, I'm assuming he's just a clerical person, and I had all my biases back there. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, Greg, you know something? That pencil is just as alive as you are. And I looked at him like he'd lost his mind or something. But as my jaw kind of dropped and I considered his stunning remark, I'm thinking, who is this person with this consciousness? Who thinks this way? And then there was another woman, Kathy, one day who I saw in tears she was seeing a spider in a web, and it just moved her to the point. See, some of these people have an appreciation that I, at that point, didn't even, I was clueless to what they were seeing and knowing. I remember them both because it was obvious to me that they knew something that I didn't yet know. And maybe I still don't know completely. Again, we're all in this school together, and ours is a teaching, healing, philosophy, and practice. So what I'm getting here with all of this is, yes, the universe is alive. There's not a spot where God is not. I think I had a slide there. Yes, the universe is alive. There is not a spot where God is not. We largely live in darkness. We have lenses that are very distorted at times. The real world is the spiritual world, and we live so much in the world of effects. So how do I grow? How do we grow? How do we evolve? Some of you want transformation. Some of you are looking for self-mastery. And it's a chore. It involves a lot of effort. A few from every age to discover the consciousness that was in Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson spoke what we teach as well as anyone ever did. But few had the understanding, the consciousness that could really take him in. I mean, we could all read some of his essays and think we had an idea. But to understand the mind of Ralph Waldo Emerson is a very deep consciousness, and he was teaching what we speak of. How can we level up to that kind of spiritual understanding, to that place where I know that nothing and no one is against me? How do we get to the place where we know that all of life is here for us, awaiting our spiritual discovery? One thing I can say is whenever anybody gets your attention in these ways, who ask these questions that move you, stay with them. If there's something about these classes or these Sunday mornings that kindles something within you, stirs something, then plan to be here next week and try to, or attempt to be here on Thursday. Whenever you can, however you can, plug in. You know what? It's too good to miss, and you'll go right back into your old ways of thinking if you don't stay plugged in. Unless you have some other spiritual practice that really, truly will bring you there. We have built in what we call forgetters. And sadly, as Barker used to say, our inspiration doesn't last long. We leave on Sunday or we leave on Thursday, and it doesn't take too long to go back to where we were. So to live this affirmative life requires a little bit of us. We seem to run from the light for some reason also, because the light involves change. If you run to the light, all of a sudden, oh my God, here I am, and there's much about me that, I won't label as bad, but I will suggest that, okay, when you're approaching the light and you're gaining all this information, it becomes obvious to you that some things you need to let go of. We remember the truth, and then we seem to forget it quickly. Practicing the truth does bring about a lot of change. My hopes for everyone here is that you join with us more often and stay awake a bit longer. We're doing, all of us, the best we can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that we have. Lately, I've been reminding everybody that you've got to want this. I learned that 40 years ago in a 12-step program, and I got it then pretty well. It doesn't happen accidentally. Nothing, you'll get the teachers, the messages will come in, but the thing is we have a tendency to reject and move on. We kind of like work against ourselves in that way. If you can stay with it, there can be, and there will be a quickening. There is power for good in operation, and you can definitely use it. If you don't level up, if you don't step up, if you keep telling yourself you don't know what to do, if you keep letting everyone else make decisions for you, well, that's certainly your prerogative. It's okay. All of those decisions will bring forth other situations and scenarios that you will deal with until for yourself you discover. Life brings you lessons for you to step up and for you to bring you to a higher place. I can say I pass on it, I don't want to deal with it, and I can run from the light. But the thing is, the lessons keep coming back in different ways. We used to say, same song, different verse, a little bit louder and a little bit worse. It doesn't have to be that way. The universe can send you a little nudge and you can learn with it, or you can get a bigger jab, or you can get hit by a cosmic 2x4. You don't have to go through the pain. You can surrender and live a happier life. So it's entirely up to you to stay plugged in. I would suggest make it a priority. That's one thing I've learned to do from 1980. I stay plugged in to several things every week. I remember not being very happy with Emerson, especially when he said, the dice of God are always loaded. You see, your spirit is moving through everything. And you can get the message this time around, hopefully wake up and or you can just ignore it and then it will come back. And sometimes it comes back with the lessons that seem a little bit tougher. So it's as though there's a conspiracy in life to lift you up to a higher place. If I'm longing to express life in a better way, in a more evolved way, I can. In our study, we recognize that we are dealing with a principle that's infinite, and our demonstrations are, likewise, infinite. And indeed, through our spiritual understanding, we find that all things are possible. I'm going to borrow from Lady Gaga now. Are you longing for change? You're far from the shallow now or in the superficial when you're in a teaching like this. when you're working with divine principle. I believe we are here and ready for change. Those of you who really resonate with this teaching, I believe you're here and ready for change and ready to go deeper, ready to transform and to step up. I'm sure some of you are, and some of you are considering it. Some of you are sick and tired of wherever it's been, and some of you are tired of the same old stories that you find yourself in. Stepping out of all of that, stepping out of the darkness is what we do. I understand the same way Louise Hay understood your presence here today, or if you're listening to it a week from now, your presence, your consideration of this material indicates that you are becoming ready, or you are ready. And this will be, of course, kind of a serendipitous experience for many of you. As we begin our journey, all of us, and develop the willingness to challenge our perceptions and our biases, we almost immediately see changes taking place as we're willing to change our thinking and to change the places where we're dug in about where we have always been right. As we first begin noticing the way we perceive situations, we start questioning and releasing many of our old beliefs and patterns of thinking. We challenge ourselves to see good in God. And Edwina Gaines would always say, I see the good in the God, the good, because to her they're synonymous ideas. If you're practicing this teaching, you're developing the vision to see the good, the God in all things. In the law of seeing, we're always looking up to the bigger idea, to feel or to sense the vibration of love that's within you, to see the world anew, shining in innocence, alive with hope, and blessed with perfect charity and love. To have the consciousness to know that every encounter is a holy encounter is a beautiful thing. Not everybody understands that. The greeting from the ancients, namaste, is saluting the divinity in one another. To have that kind of consciousness where you know every encounter is a holy encounter takes some practice. To you, some of us, it's just an idea that seems a little bit far from us. But that's what we want to develop. We understand that the world is one, and we can have the consciousness where we know we live, move, have our being in this substance. And everything is here for us, and every encounter is, in fact, a holy one. We come together in our classes week by week to plug in, to study, to empower and enlighten ourselves, to see life in this beautiful way, to have this spiritual understanding and to begin to comprehend our relationship to the universe, to learn about the laws of nature and their relationships to the law of life, the law of mind. Secondly, we're here to change our consciousness. Thankfully, we learn to think for ourselves here rather than being programmed by what all the people say. Turn off the TVs. Think for yourself. Increase your faith. Open yourself up to more and more and better options. The great potential is in you. It is a part of you. As we practice, we come to a new awareness, a spiritual awareness of self. We discover God in us, as us, is us. While these natural laws and principles are always operating in our lives, nature does not willingly or openly reveal them to us. We have to search for their meaning. Like, I wish I knew all this stuff back 30 years ago, honest to God. We have to, I was getting pieces of it, and we get pieces of it. And beyond, there's more and more. We have to search for their meaning and uncover this knowledge for ourselves. Some people describe it as the best kept secret of the ages, God or spirit within you, the absolute hope of your glory, the awareness of that. Throughout the ages, certain individuals, possibly intuitive people or those who have lived in close communion with this source energy, have discovered a relationship between themselves and the universe, which other people are not in touch with. Most people are living out their lives full of doubt, worry, lots of fears. They're not conscious of the spiritual realm so much. But there are a few always who have either consciously or unconsciously used that power that the ordinary individual doesn't seem to be in touch with too much. Because these individuals can demonstrate effects from the use and the knowing of this power. You can think of them just as I can, these folks. I've heard it described over the years as many things. Years ago, people would say you're developing the mystical approach to life, or you're developing the mystic's eye. And simply stated, it is someone who has developed perception beyond ordinary sight. We come to a place as we practice this teaching of communion where we know and where we feel and we sense that we live and move and have our being in this stuff, this unitary field of causation. It's sublime when you wake to it. It's beautiful when you're there even for a second or two. And you know that you know that you know. And your thoughts are starting to take form, and you get a sense of that. And you develop a sense that all is well, as Louise has always said, that all is well and everything good is possible. And there's nothing to worry about, and that there is much to enjoy and much, much to learn. Our teaching offers all of that to you. When we begin to practice this teaching, we begin to open up the gates to greater good, greater perception, and all the good things, health, greater opportunities, wealth, better everything. People have stood in awe before these great teachers, rabbis, philosophers, gurus, sages, as though the universe has delivered some great message to them, which has been denied to you, but that's not true. Nothing is denied to anyone. You are an individualization of it, and it is forever responding to you, wooing you, attempting to get your attention. Again, it's been the best kept secret of the ages. Spirit in you, God in you, the hope of your glory, the awakening to that. Today we recognize that spiritual understanding and knowledge is ours to use and experience. The transcendent life is a life that expresses fully and beautifully through us, or it can. In our classes and study, we're reminded of the great truth and acquire the knowledge and become empowered in consciousness to move forward, to level up and to transform. We can at last believe in a great new reality. Spirit in us, as us, is us. As we learn more about our relationship with the universe, how it responds to us, the way it works and all, how creative intelligence responds, we will be amazed at how immediate and accessible it is to all of us all the time. We come to know it responds to us as quickly as it has to any person who has ever lived. I was told by an encounter with a practitioner, Mary, years ago when I was a new student. She said, "Greg, you were the child of a lesser God." And of course, I looked at her like skeptically. Our theory, our belief in New Thought is that there is one infinite mind, one energy, one presence. That includes all that is. Look around, and anything you can look at or think of, it is that. Whether it be in the intelligence in man, the life in the animal, or the invisible presence, which we call God. This practice, this calling to live the affirmative life is very practical because it teaches us how to use this one mind, or what we call the mind principle, for definite purposes, such as helping ourselves, helping others who perhaps are sick, impoverished, or unhappy. Each one of us can learn to demonstrate this principle. This power always exists. It always has existed. It's eternal presence. Its existence is of no particular value to us until we learn how to use it, which was one of the great contributions of Ernest Holmes. We learn to actively be conscious of it in our affirmative prayer process so that we can use it in our lives. Affirmative prayer treatments are the most powerful prayers known to man. In our classes, we can teach you how to pray effectively. The thing is, though, you've really got to want to do it, because it's not something that we can do for you. We can come together, we can teach, and you can teach you how to do it. The first step, as we do treatment, is born out of quiet contemplation. It's a recognition, a quiet recognition that there is one spirit. And let that awareness fill you up so that every part of you becomes alive with that knowing, that awareness. When you're coming from that place, that connected place, you can make statements from that place that are filled with power. As we align ourselves with the attributes of spirit, we can neutralize doubts and negativity, and we can heal anything in our life. It takes some time, it takes some practice. Come to the classes on Thursday night, join us more often. It takes a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to understand the power you possess. Stay with us, and we will show you how to use it. So, circling back to the lesson and coming in for the summary, we're always acting out our lives on the great stage of life. We are authors of our own experiences. If we allow ourselves to be just a continuation, a series of acting and reacting, and then again reacting again to the world around us, then we are not really living our own lives. We haven't become the captain, the author, or anything else that would indicate that we're fully expressing ourselves as God beings. The thrill of being here is to wake up to the realization of who you are and all the possibilities that exist within you and for you. To be the author, to guide, to be the guide, to be the lifter, to express yourself fully, and it's to realize it's all here for you. There will be some of you that will persist in approaching the great ocean of life with a very small container. There will be some of you which won't feel worthy and that will dismiss this because you're still believing that none of it's possible. And that, of course, is a message to the universe that you are beat or it's over. Life is too tough for you or it's too late for you. And that is, from our standpoint or my standpoint, sad. We can know that everyone exists as pure potential, but not everyone will lift their sights high. They are operating in the dark, trying to see through darkness. If you've been around here for any length of time, if you're learning to live the affirmative life, you will understand that what we give our attention to multiplies. There is a law of multiplication that returns to us in time what we give our attention to and embody, many times multiplied. We choose everything when we don't choose. By acting and reacting to life, we're making a choice. When we don't specifically choose what we want to experience in life, then we permit ourselves to be influenced by the collective consciousness of the masses. Turn off the television. What I'm saying is, either we direct our own life or the world will direct it for us. Either our beliefs will direct our lives or the beliefs of others operating through the collective consciousness will do so. It has been said, it isn't what life is doing to us, but what we are doing with life. What are we doing with life? What are you doing with your life? What are you going to do with your life? What are your intentions? Are you going to soar? Are you going to fully express this God-given nature of yours? Do we see life as an opportunity to learn, expand, and grow and express? We know our purpose is to let the one life, the presence to express in us and through us. We are inlets and outlets of it. We're outlets for the flow of givingness from the one great creative source. Hopefully, most of us are wanting to get out of the dark and are developing a spiritual knowledge within ourselves. Hopefully, you're not merely acting and reacting to what the outside world has thrown your way. Hopefully, you know that you are caused your own experience. We know that we can control our lives by how we respond and react. On the stage of life, we speak our lines with clarity because we recognize the power of words. We know that our words have the power to create our lives. The words are things, and some words may have more power than others. We watch our words, knowing that what we send out through a law of mind returns to us. The law of cause and effect is always operating in our lives, and we give it direction through our consciousness. Okay, our consciousness is everything. We remember that our lives are constantly outpicturing our consciousness, acting and then reacting to what we dwell upon. What's it been like being you? I ask every Thursday, because I want you to be aware that your consciousness is creating your world. There is always an action and a reaction. The law of mind is always at work, acting as a law of cause and effect that is forever in operation. And whatever causation you might have initiated through your thinking brings about an outer effect into your physical world. Our divine principle and the principle that we desire to demonstrate is simple enough. We are surrounded by a creative intelligence which responds to our thought and acts upon it creatively, magically, wonderfully, projecting our thought patterns into our lives. Dr. Holmes tells us that it is one thing to know a principle, and it is another thing to demonstrate it. We realize that this law of mind responds to the energy of our thoughts. The action of this law is one of reflection. That means that this law receives, accepts, and reacts to our thoughts and feelings and reflects them back into our experience. The law of mind, like all universal principles, is impersonal. It works for all of us who know how to use it. The laws of nature are set. It is through our recognition of these laws that gives us the power to bring them into practical use. Come to the classes, learn how to use it, stay plugged in. Whenever you have an adequate subconscious image that does not contradict the nature of the universe, your image will take form and it will become demonstrated in your world. We understand that the law of mind is always acting and reacting to us, and we realize that we consciously embody what we consciously impress upon our minds. It is what we create for ourselves in our lives. We hold in mind what we embody, and then we demonstrate. Let us begin today, this week, to put a demand on consciousness for a much, much greater experience, which you deserve. The law will follow your orders and begin creative action in your life. We take a definite spiritual initiative. We have power to use through our active right thinking. The law of mind is to be directed, or it will do nothing of great worth for you. The universe says yes. You remember the great genie who said, "Your wish is my command." The law of mind obeys the orders that are given to it, whether or not we are conscious that we are giving it direction. It operates on both a conscious and a subconscious level as we learn to practice living the affirmative life and utilizing affirmative prayer. We become much, much more powerful. We're learning to direct the law as we're aligning ourselves with the givingness of life. Humankind alone has the right of choice. We're unified with Source. We're individualizations of it. The law of mind responds to us. It's always affirming us. In order to be individuals, we have to have the ability to think and choose for ourselves. Please don't let other people think for you. We take charge of and step out of the dark by changing our thinking. As we grow and evolve and do our spiritual work, we change consciousness and we change the world. As we change consciousness, we demonstrate greater good of all kinds. Our own affirmative prayers are our individualized expressions of recognition, unification, declaration of a purpose or a thing. And you will see the demonstrations that will come from that work. Each of you are unique individualizations of spirit, one in the world, magnificent in ways you can't even imagine. We are one with the mind of God, and we understand, we come to understand this divine connection. This mind is a concept that attempts to explain a container of consciousness, right? A field of consciousness, and within it contains all levels of consciousness. It's a field of infinite energy and love. Out of it comes all manifestation of form, including our own brains. The more that we open ourselves to the universal energy of mind, the more we can express it in our life. Our goal in the affirmative prayer process is to plant seeds of new ideas into minds so we can change our consciousness. We will know we have had a shift in consciousness when we have had a realization and a feeling within us. A realization that spirit is all that there is and we are one with it. Then we come to the ultimate realization that we live in spirit and for the delight of spirit. We live to give spirit an outlet for its love and its givingness. Life responds to us in ways, all the ways, and always as we approach it. We are painting the canvas of our own lives. You are writing your own story, mirroring your own expression of life. What we believe, we demonstrate, or we will demonstrate. When we believe in the joy of living, the harmony of being, and the goodness of life, then we reflect this in our lives. And I will conclude with a couple more things from Dr. Holmes. Each of us has within us a divine potential, a divine flow of creative action that desires expression in a multitude of ways. Only we can open this divine flow to manifest as channels of blessings in our lives. As we act out our lives on the stage of life, we do more than merely act and react to the lines that come our way. We take control and we write our own individual script of life. We choose our own dialogue, our own unique words and thoughts instead of permitting others to choose for us. We realize that what is important is what we are doing here. Religious science, our great teaching, provides us with the spiritual tools for us to become the playwright of our own lives, and so we can choose to create a greater life, a life of fulfillment and great joy. And so ends today's lesson. Thank you. Okay, we're back. This is the time for everybody to share their demonstrations, their good news.